And next up, we will be deep diving in with the 24/7 Office together with the CEO, Eirik Aalvik Stranden. Please welcome.
Thank you. Yes, hi everyone, and thank you for having me. Originally, I was planning to speak in Norwegian, but realizing that I'm from a very western part of the Norwegian country, that maybe is not translating very well into Swedish, so I will take this presentation in English for today. But great to be here. We have a lot of exciting results and news from our Q4 last year that we want to present that came out 2 weeks ago. But also want to go a little bit through our company, what we have done the last few years after I took over, and hopefully show you a little bit about the potential that lies ahead for us as well. So first of all, like, who are we and what are we doing? Well, our vision is to empower businesses for the future. And the way we're doing that can be kind of summarized into 3 key pillars. One is leading in development, meaning that we're at the forefront developing sustainable and forward-looking systems for our customer. 2, supporting the entire value chain for our customers, meaning everything from incoming invoices to process them through AI, to paying them, to debt collection and so on, like the full ecosystem for our customers. And thirdly, actionable insight, which means that we do not only store data for our customers, but we're truly giving them tips, recommendations in order for them to increase their growth and success. And so, high-level summarize of the company, we try to put that in a little bit this slide for the last period. And what we have done is that we basically invested more than 200 million in the product since I took over. And we're getting great feedback from our tens of thousands of B2B customers now. Become a significant player, and we're actually reaching 350 million Swedish kronor in annual recurring revenue this last quarter. That is up 50 million in recurring revenue from the previous quarter. And we actually had 2 consecutive quarters with more than 30% organic growth. This is a great foundation to build our profitable growth journey ahead, and we're going to continue aiming for those numbers ahead. In addition to that, we're in a great position also with the AI that's coming into the market. One of our larger customers in Sweden is on our AI platform and module for automating and processing incoming invoices. And we actually help them reduce more than 90% of their time analyzing and posting incoming invoices, more than 25,000 hours a year, where they can use these freed up resources in order to drive revenue again to kind of the pillars for empowering businesses for the future. Lastly, also, we have this kind of the core accounting and module across Norway and Sweden, but we also have a lot of exciting upsell modules that we're seeing we get a really good speed into the market. An example of that is the payroll module, which is one of our highest growth product areas as we speak. Also, another one is the payment and debt collection module and license company, which we're also seeing a great synergy with our modules and with our ecosystem. Just to give you a quick variety or overview of our customers as well and the variety in the customer mass. Here you can see international companies like PwC, Pfizer. We also have cross-Nordic like Elon, Pizzabakken, which is probably the largest takeaway restaurant chain in the Nordics. And also, of course, one of our larger Swedish customers on our AI module, HSB as well. So it's a big variety and it reflects a lot of the kind of the distribution of companies in the market. Also, personally, I believe that success, that depends on collecting a great team of individuals into the organization. And that is also something I've been focusing a lot on the last few years now. And we've got together a really great top management group in 24sevenOffice with previous international scale-up experience from quite global international companies and already seeing results of them into the organization. And the same for that as well with our board, which have some, both the chairman and Ståle as the previous CEO in the board, which have the kind of 20-25 years of experience with the company. And then we also added 2 relatively new board members in Karin and Staffan, which also brings this kind of international product experience and forward-looking to the company. So how do we look at the market ahead now across the accounting and tech space, especially in the Nordics? And for us, we're not seeing any tendency for it to slow down, but rather on the contrary, it's going the other way. We've never been as busy as we are today. We are seeing more and more customers, especially coming from our larger competitors over to us. And one example of this is, for instance, the preferred partnership we signed with Aspia before Christmas, where they chose us as one of the preferred software vendors, especially for their Norwegian venture going ahead. And I think this also gives us a testimony to the product investments that we've been doing for the last 2 years really are paying off, which is really, really exciting. Also, I think like what we're seeing with the speed of going from on-prem to cloud for specific industries are never been as fast as we're seeing today. And the last point in terms of the ecosystem thinking that we're offering into the market is also starting to truly pay off. So again, an example for this is that traditionally, for instance, taking in the payment, the reminders, the debt collection, you would typically have separate independent vendors where you would send these invoices to a different player that would then collect, see how much money they can collect, updating the accounting and the balances and so on. But this we have 100% integrated into our system with AI on top in order to kind of optimize which channels should you remind them on, which days should you remind them on. Everything from B2B, you would probably do this before you're paying out payroll, for instance. B2C, you would do it after, once the money is in the accounts. And also lastly, I think, again, the AI and climate waves that going through the market, we're in a great position to capitalize on this, as we've already been an AI company for the last, since the start, and we're using that internally, but also in all the modules that we're providing to our customers. Also, from the heavy product investments and a few key strategic acquisitions the last few years, we truly become this one-stop shop ecosystem now that we're getting great feedback from. And overall, our ambition is to truly kind of automate and streamline the process for our customers interacting with their customers. And again, an example of this is, for instance, a web shopping experience where a customer of our customers is going to buy something from their web shop. We want to provide the full kind of experience here, from in ordering, the checkout solution, the payment solution, invoicing, into the accounting part, into the reminding, to following up with the AI on top of everything. And we're really seeing that pays off now, where we can both use that as a kind of taking new customers, but also upselling those modules to the existing customers. And one kind of last very interesting point for us as well there, if you see kind of the fintech space, especially in HRM, where if we can dive into our customers and also their employees, it means we can go from tens of thousands of customers of ourselves to hundreds of thousands to a million potentially, offering insurance, financing services and so on. So a very, very exciting area. So our two main customer channels, that's one direct customer channel where we sell, implement, follow up ourselves. These are typically larger customers, for instance, HSB here in Sweden. They typically have their own finance or accounting departments. But on the other hand, we also have quite a large partnership channel with accounting firms, like, for instance, Aspia and a few of the large ones in the Nordics, where they typically sell and implement themselves, but we're providing this unique quality software experience. And the reason why these two channels overlap quite well is that the requirements from an accounting department overlaps quite well with an accountant's kind of requirements in terms of having the overview of their customers, the payments due, and so forth. But nonetheless, if it's direct channel or through our partner channel, we always like to have the direct customer relationship and invoicing the end customer ourselves in order to have good control of the customer, but also helping our partners succeed with the growth of the customer. And so also after I took over, we saw that in order to truly kind of capitalize on opportunities in the market and also stay competitive towards our larger competitor like Visma, Fortnox, and so on, we really needed to invest in the product. And from this, we have been quite successful now. We have a truly upgraded, robust backend engine that now scales with independently how big or how much volume or transaction or how big the customer is. We can support that across Nordic, Norway, and Sweden. And in addition to this quite updated and robust backend engine, we've also done a lot of updates to kind of the front end, the user experience, in order to accommodate for our simpler customer needs. And this has been something that, for instance, Fortnox has been quite successful now for the last period, where the simpler customer, they don't need 30 different options for invoicing, for instance. They need perhaps 2 or 3. So this is something that we rolled out now recently because we're seeing a big potential here with our partners. And again, one of the examples why Aspia chose us as the preferred partner now going ahead. And also, lastly, I would say, like, in addition to kind of the strategic product investments, we've also been spending some money in terms of kind of integrating the acquisitions that we've done and the new kind of verticals that we've been in. So payroll module, for instance, again, one of the fastest growing area with us, but also in terms of HR, MRP, which is kind of the production resource planning system that we recently also entered the Canadian market with. So it's a huge potential here to scale also internationally. And just to tell you a little bit about, like, why this is truly bringing us, like, a big potential. And one of the example here is, of course, on the enterprise part with the robust back engine, the ecosystem with the modules you can use is a huge potential. But also in terms of what gives us kind of a unique position now is that we can grow upwards in the market, but also downwards in the market. Because once with the simplified user experience, we can start with smaller customers and let them grow in our system across both Norway and Sweden, which I think is we're the only independent player in the market that can do that. And then we can support them the whole journey towards becoming larger and more complex, which we don't have really a competitor to do, except if they change kind of the ERP vendor. And this is something where we're continuing investing in, basically. Yes, seems like the flags didn't come through here in the presentation, but also we just wanted to give a quick overview of where we are with kind of the different key product areas. And in terms of kind of the core accounting modules and the financing services, this is primarily in Norway and Sweden, where we see kind of big synergies across the countries. And all of our products are released simultaneously across Norway and Sweden. But then we have a different sets of products as well, like, for instance, the HR and the time tracking, where we are already now in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and some customers in the US as well. But here we don't have the same kind of regulations in terms of taking into account bank integration and so on, which truly gives us a potential to scale. Example of this is also the material resource planning for MRP, where we have primarily our US venture is based on this MRP venture. And this is also where we entered into the Canadian market recently with 2 quite large customers, with turnover more than 1 billion in revenue. So it brings a little bit to the potential of the company diving into globally with these different areas. So quickly also on our Q4 results, we had some big milestones that we're celebrating from Q4 last year. One of them is that we actually reached again 350 million in recurring revenue. So our ambitions going to profitable growth has always been growing into profitable growth and not cutting cost and going back in order to get that profitability, because we are seeing such a great potential for the market ahead. And number 2 here, as we also mentioned, is this north of 30% organic growth, which I think is quite astonishing in the market we're seeing today and compared to also the other players we're competing against. And maybe the third and most important also is that we reached a positive run rate by the end of last year, also with a quite significant improvement in EBITDA from the previous or the quarter last year simultaneously. In terms of revenue, provided a quick overview in terms of the development here. So as you can see, it's record high revenue, and we're expecting that to continue also going forward. One of the reasons we're confident in that is that the sales and marketing, especially in the leads coming in, has never been as high, and we beat the budget here for the last 4 consecutive quarters. And I would say that the kind of the truest pulse in terms of the company is truly how the sales and marketing organization is going, and this gives us a lot of hope and potential for the development of the company. And then also quickly on the EBITDA part, as you can see, quite a significant improvement from the similar quarter last year in 2022. And again, the main reason for us reaching this profitable growth has been growing for those ambitious targets that we have, and we actually exceeded them as well, and we're again expecting that to continue going forward. But nonetheless, we're going to focus on profitable growth ahead. Just quickly as well, in terms of the revenue and the cost, we can see that we have built a quite scalable organization and business model, meaning that we're actually a little bit lower in terms of the external and personal cost compared to the similar quarter again for the previous year. But the revenues are much higher, so the percentage of the cost part is much more attractive now, and we're expecting that also to continue. And then lastly, just want to quickly kind of summarize where we are now, and again, what we're capitalizing on going ahead, is that we have quite a robust cash position. We have a kind of a long-term debt financing, but that's not due until end of 2027, so almost 4 years too. By that, we're expecting to be growing quite significantly until that. And just having that annual recurring business model with more than now 350 million, already reaching a positive run rate, it truly gives us a unique position to grow profitable ahead. So we're very excited for the future that comes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Eirik. And I would like to start off. You entered the strategic partnership with Aspia and Debit AS. These are two Norwegian house of finances. Tell me a little about your partnering model and how this strengthens your offer.
Yeah, a very good question. So it's we probably have like 50 to 60% of our revenues are through kind of very close partners, both in Norway and Sweden, basically. And what we're seeing is that from the investments that we made in the product, it's a whole different system in terms of simplifying the user experience for the smaller customers than we had before. Because remember, where we came from was a more like kind of complex customer base, larger customers, but not necessarily really being the best fit for kind of the simplest customer, which is kind of the most in terms of number of potential customers in the market. So that is one of the reasons why, for instance, Aspia came to us and be like, this is a whole different system that we saw for 2 years ago, and chose us as then the preferred partner, especially for the Norway branch, where they're going to grow quite further now, and they've already built a quite robust place in Sweden. And on top of this, we want to kind of, again, like one way that we've always been doing is that fight for customers in kind of the SMB to enterprise segment. And we're seeing that, again, more and more customers coming our way. One of the reasons there, both the accounting firms and partners and customers are coming to us, is because kind of the two kind of monopoly players in terms of Visma, Norway, and Fortnox are cutting back kind of on their kickback on what they're sharing with their customers, and it gives a huge potential for us to really kick in, because we're in kind of the start of our profitable growth journey. So we have like this 4, 5, 6 year to 10 years journey ahead of us, where we're going to capture customers, and we're going to keep up with these kickbacks in order to make them a competitive kind of commercial terms. But also in terms of competing for the existing players. But one kind of big lead generator also for us is being there with the new companies that are being established each year. And in Norway, for instance, with probably up to 20,000 businesses that are being established new each year, and probably twice that amount in Sweden. And just being there for them when establishing a company is something that we're also really focusing on. And that's one of the strategic reasons for Debit, for instance, to be there, because then we can be in the start, take them into our system, they can activate different modules on their way going big, and then suddenly you're a full-fledged 24 customers using both the accounting, the payroll, the payment, the AI, all of it, basically.
Solid answer. You've also entered the Canadian market with the capsule factory and the global food producer. Could you shortly tell us about the potential you see in Canada and Northern America?
The potential is extremely high. And again, like where we are in this position in the market now is that maybe one of the industries that's lagging most behind in terms of digitalization and coming onto cloud is truly kind of this production industry and vertical. And so one of the kind of the key value add, like the 80% of value, is just taking them from on-prem to cloud, bringing all their data into one system, being able to see all of kind of their storages, where the ingredients are, how they tie everything together. And this is kind of give the 80-90% of the value. And then on top of that, we can bring our AI modules to tell you should rather produce this and this in this way, because then you can maximize returns or cut costs or making sure you sell all of your storage, for instance. So this is something we already have, and the reason why this is going so well international is because, again, this production-based, you don't need to accommodate a lot of regulations, accounting, bank integrations, and so on. This is basically a plug-and-play tool. Of course, enterprise would take some time to set up and all these things, and also the margins are there. But again, this is why you can have an organization, for instance, in North America, that are then serving the whole globe in terms of putting these customers into the system. Because again, you need to set the ingredients, you need to set the product, how they map together, you get some cost to each ingredient, how that ties together to a product, and then basically that's kind of the overall MRP. And then you have a lot of course, advanced functionality. One reason why Pfizer chose us for part of the vaccine production is due to the unique tracking capability we have in the system, so that you can track back to the unique batch, to the unique ingredient that went into exactly that production line. So again, it's quite scalable, international potential. We can drive it from one organization, and we're just basically getting started in North America for that. But that will still be kind of primarily focus, again, because we want to have this profitable growth, consistent profitable growth ahead. So we're not going to put a lot of resources to sell all of the accounting, but potentially that could be an upsell again. Once we get a quite good grip of that market for the production based, then we can upsell accounting, banking, if we want to do that later.
I see. And you won the procurement in Canada against 10 other competitors. Have you received any feedback on particularly why they chosen to go forward with you?
Yeah, we actually were on site. Actually, me and the board member Ståle here were there 1.5 weeks ago. So we were meeting the client, tasted some of their goods, and of course, but they showed us the whole analysis of us versus the 15 other global players like Oracle, SAP, Acumatica, and a few niche players, and we were ranked as like the top 2 vendors. And then there was like 15 rows in terms of like user experience, functionality, integrations, and so forth, basically. So that was quite cool to see that we're actually beating them, and that, again, the investments that we've done really paying off. But on top of that as well, like the reason also why they picked us, one of them is of course the system and favorable price, but also that we're quite customer centric, and I've been available with them already from the start of the sale process, where they really appreciate that, and that is something that we're also trying to bring to the market. We're available for the customers, like even me, like call me whenever, like we want just to solve for the customer, bring the best product and grab market share from our competitors.
I understand. And just one final question. You're aiming for international market, industrial sector towards Canada. And could you tell us a little bit about the customer concentration and perhaps a little bit about your churn and what you see is 24/7Office most important competitive advantage?
Yeah, competitive. Then are you thinking about just in general 24?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. No, I think our churn now is quite market leading. We're quite good on churn, and we're not doing publicly sales figures right now, but we're working on that. But those are quite competitive and good. And what we're seeing is that it's basically this unique full ecosystem where customers again can come in from quite small players to grow as large as they want to be. It's no customer that's too large for us across Norway and Sweden, and being able to offer those services across border Norway, Sweden, I think that's one of the kind of unique features that we have that none of the other players like Visma, Fortnox, they're focused either on Sweden or Norway, or we can support the cross-border ERP. So I think that plus kind of, from my background as well as a data scientist in BCG, working a lot with AI models is such a huge potential. We already come really far, and I think we have the best AI processing module for incoming invoices, but the potential is super high across all the different other modules as well. So really excited for that.
Thank you so much, Eirik Aalvik Stranden, CEO of 24/7 Office.
Thank you.